Okay. You're in the wrong SMMA niche, and here's why. The problem with the industry in general is I'm always talking about how you're outsourcing your thinking. By doing that, you're eliminating all of the possibilities for you to find a unique selling proposition and a unique thing in the industry that you can do that's different that you can have as an actual edge. Um, so I've created this chart here, and I want to show you the right way to go about thinking how to make the decision on how to find the right niche for you rather than telling you what the right niche is. So I created this Venn diagram because really, in my opinion, there's three main things that are really going to contribute to you making sure that you choose the right niche. First of all, the biggest, most important thing is your actual life experience. So what I mean by this is you have your life experience, their profitability, and your accessibility to the owners. When you combine those three things, where those three things intersect is where your perfect niche is. Okay, and there may be a couple different options, but it's not something that somebody can tell you what the best niche is. And I'm actually going to expound on this more because everything else also kind of relies on that. So when I talk about your life experience, what I really mean is what experience and industry do you have? What jobs have you worked? What background do you have? Do your parents have? What sort of familiarity do you have with any given industry that somebody else that you're competing against may not have? I'm talking about, if you're trying to select a niche, you need to really understand the people that run those businesses, the problems that they encounter, where you can alleviate pain, what they run into on a daily basis, the type of pitches that they hear is really going to help you, if you're familiar with that. And all sorts of those little nuanced things, like just being able to talk to somebody in their lingo will go a, a long, long, long ways for you. So when I talk about having an unfair advantage, right, against your competitors, that's what I mean. What industry or thing is out there? What type of business is there that you have some type of advantage that may not be measurable, but it's something that is hard for somebody else to imitate or to duplicate or to repeat because of unique life experience that you have that somebody else doesn't. That's where I want you to start, right? You need to think about what is it that I know about uniquely that many other people may not, or that many other people that are trying to get into this space may not understand about it. That's going to give me an advantage. All you need to do is find one, two, three, four, five things. The more things, the better. That you know about an industry that somebody else doesn't. So that just little things that when you're having a conversation with a prospect, that you can just kind of slightly share, subtly share, and they're going to be like, oh, this guy knows exactly what I'm talking about and what my problems are and what I'm dealing with. I want to work with him. So that's the first thing. In order to find that out, like I would say, one, it may just come to you. It may have come to you as I'm saying that and as I'm just talking, and as you're thinking about this, but you could definitely journal and you can go through, um, writing out your life experiences, what jobs you've had, what businesses you've been interested in before, what you've researched in. Now, this isn't a passion project, right? It's a business. So it doesn't mean that it has to be something that you like love doing or do all the time or anything like that or something, but it needs to be, in my opinion, your best chance of success is it needs to be something that you have prior experience in, or at least are willing to learn about like crazy and really dive into so that you can understand a lot about their industry that somebody else may not. That's the first thing. I don't have any chart for that or any diagram for that, but because it's kind of hard to do, like it just wouldn't apply. But the next thing is going to be really important. I would say obviously the most important is their profitability, right? So is it profitable for them to do what you're trying to offer them? And on the inverse of that, how do you make it profitable for these businesses to work with you? Right. So I want you to think with this, think about, right. I said, how many sales do I need to bring them for them to succeed? One or 100, right? If you're working with a coffee shop, you may need to get a couple hundred new customers in that business every month to pay for your fee plus their ad spend. If you're working with a kitchen remodeler or something like that, where the average sale price is 40 grand, you probably only need to get one for it to be profitable, right? So I want you to start by thinking about what is their average sale price? What do they make per sale when they do business with somebody? What is their average profit margin? A lot of businesses have really high volume numbers, but really low margins. You need to find a sweet spot there. Obviously, um, it's great to bring a business a large ticket price, but if the business is only making 5 or 10% margin after everything's said and done, it may still not be profitable. So you need to understand at least what the industry average is for their margin. And if you onboard a client, you should understand if they have anything um, unusual about their business that might make their margins worse or better. This is really important here. What is the industry average cost per lead? Right? So if you're in home remodeling of any kind, whether it's concrete, kitchens, baths, roofing, windows, anything to do with a house, then you know very well all about Angie, Yelp, Thumbtack, Home Advisor, or at least you should. If you don't, then yeah, I already, yeah. Um, but these businesses, these are big lead magnets, or lead aggregators, let's call them. And generally, they charge people anywhere from 50 to $150 per lead. Now, they sell those leads off to many different customers of theirs. And so they're shared leads, and that's what the industry hates. If you're in this, any type of home improvement niche, then um, that everybody hates them. But that's still, at the end of the day, you can pay them, let's call it on average, $80 for a lead. And that's like a pretty decent lead. Like, it's not a great lead, it's not a guaranteed appointment, but it's a decent lead. Um, and there's a good chance that it's actually got a better chance of turning into an appointment than, like, however your generating leads are. So it's important to understand CPL. The number that really matters is cost per acquisition, which is CPA. And you would get to that by understanding what their close is, right? So you need to understand what is their percentage of what is their closing percentage with cold leads, right? If it's somebody that only works off referrals, they're going to tell, oh yeah, my close is 50%. No, it's not. It's not 50%. Um, if it's really easy to sell somebody if they already know you and Uncle Sally referred them to you as a client, right? So you need to understand what their actual closing percentage is. Like, ask them, when was the last time you went out to a cold lead, and how many of those do we need to get you to sell? And then you need to understand, what is your conversion on your leads that are coming in for them? How many leads do you need to bring in before they go out to an actual somebody's home and have the opportunity to earn business, um, on average, right? And so that would all get you to what your cost per acquisition is versus, on average, what the industry's cost per acquisition is. And that's really important to understand, because if they can get $100 cost per acquisition by just buying a couple of Angie's List leads, and you need to spend $1,000 in ad spend to be able to generate enough appointments, or to be able to generate enough leads to appointments to sales, it's much, 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 much more expensive to work with you than it would be to just go with the industry average competitor. And I think a lot of guys in the industry, in our space, in the SMMA space, massively overlook this, because they look at 10, 15, $20 Facebook cost per leads, and they think, oh, we're great because Angie charges $80. Okay, well, what do you charge? What's your agency fee? Probably 1,000, 1,500, $2,000 a month. For the build out and the management. And then when you do the math on that, you're nowhere near what Facebook is telling you as your cost per lead, right? So it's really easy to brag about what Facebook or Meta is telling you as your CPL, but how many leads need to come in before it's a real one that they're going out to their house? And then how many of those do they need to go to before they actually sell one and earn business? Right. So that's really, really important that you guys are actually being realistic about this and thinking about it, um, as your own person. And just, if you just think about it critically, you'll understand this. If you just sit and watch a bunch of YouTube videos about how profitable SMMA can be for clients, then you'll be off, because most of the videos that you see out there, they don't talk about cost per lead, cost per acquisition, close, and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to make a whole separate video on that because I think it's really important and it is genuinely really overlooked because everybody always just advertises what Facebook says is the CPL, which honestly doesn't mean anything. Um, Next is going to be when it comes to determining what niche you should be in is the accessibility to owners, right? Can you actually easily, relatively reasonably contact the decision makers? Um, I was talking to a guy who's like in it was either dental or yeah, I think it was dental, and he was cold calling to reach his owners and was like, "Oh, I just run into gatekeepers." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, you're calling and you're getting a receptionist at the front desk, right?" So that's like really important to think about. What is the right way to contact what niche, And so in general, when it comes to if this is a formula for how to select what niche you should be in, and this is how you're thinking about it, you should start with what method of outreach are you using? What method of outreach are you planning to use? Why? Right? What is the best method of outreach? And there is no best method of outreach, is the honest truth with you guys. So anybody that tells you out there this is working phenomenally, maybe for their niche, and maybe they have a better selected niche for them specifically than you do for you. And so if you try to duplicate what they're doing, it's not going to work for you. So this is really important, and that whole concept that I just said is like the most important thing in business and in life in general. You can't this type of stuff, you just can't have somebody copy and paste it into your brain and have it actually work for you. So if you're going to select something that's got your life experience and they can do it profitably, the next thing you need to figure out is how am I going to contact these people, right? And so the three main ones, there's way more method of outreach than just these three ones, but cold email, cold DMs, and cold calling. Okay, so one is you're not thinking about which one you want to do the least or the most. You want to think about what's most effective. So with this potential niche that you're selecting, if you're going to cold email them and you're going to start building an email list, do your prospects even check their emails? Because a lot of blue collar guys, depending on what niche you're in, they hardly even check their emails. Like honestly, they almost never use them. Um, if you're working with attorneys or chiros or doctors and dentists and more of the white collar professions, you're probably much better off using cold email than you would be in another niche. But if you're trying to use cold DM, do they have social media? Do they check it? Right? And it doesn't mean that do they have a business page or not, because again, if it's a blue collar industry that you're trying to tap into and that you're going to try to work in, most of these guys don't post to their social media, and that's part of why they need you. So you're not going to have any luck in trying to contact them on social media because the average age of a business owner is like 56, I think. Um, and so most of the guys you're going to be calling are going to be twice your age or more, depending on how old you are. Um, which means that they probably don't have a bunch of social media apps on their phone and they probably don't have notifications turned on and they're not even going to see your DM. And if they do see it, they're going to think it's a spam or a scam. So that's again important to think about. I'm not shooting down any of these um, methods of outreach, but the problem that's going to come that you're going to have to overcome is whichever one of these you select, if it does work, right? Say they do have social media and it's like an automotive detailer, which is going to be on social media all the time, hopefully. Um, you have to understand that now you're really swamped with a ton of other cold DMs of people trying to sell them the exact same thing. Which brings me to the next point. But if you're cold calling, are you going to encounter gatekeepers? And if so, how often? So if you're going to if you're like working with attorneys, then you're not going to be able to get them over the phone. You're going to just reach assistants. If you're trying to work with chiros and dentists, same thing. It's going to be really hard to reach the owner. The best that you're going to do is going to be able to leave a message. And then the assistant is, hey, some guy called and he said he could guarantee you appointments or leads or jobs or whatever. What is an owner going to say to that when he hears that? Um, with all of these, right? So there is like at least one more line of questioning. This is where I stopped it because I don't want this video to go on too long. But if you can contact them with cold email, are how are you going to make your emails not look like spam? How are you going to make it so that they're readable, interesting, engaging, and they actually look like they're from a real person because they are? But how do you make it not look like every other marketing email that they get all the time? Again, keeping in mind, if email is something that's going to work for you, you're not the first person that's figured it out that the industry that you're in can be reached through cold email. So you need to figure out how to make your email stand out and be different. Um, if your prospects do check social media, I kind of already touched on this, but how are you going to stand out from everybody else that's cold DMing them, right? Uh, because people are, and it's one of a million messages that they'll get that year offering basically the same thing. Um, if you're going to encounter gatekeepers and you can cold call, but you need to figure out how to get around gatekeepers, what is your actual plan for doing that and overcoming them? Obviously, in my opinion, the best industry is the one that you have the most life experience in, the one that you have the most relatability to, the one that is most profitable for them to work with you while it's also profitable for you. The one that's, I'll re-say that, the one that's easiest to make it profitable for both of you to work together, and the one that it's easiest to access the owners, whichever method of outreach you can do with the most volume. That is the niche that you should be in, and that is why you are in probably the wrong niche.